Welcome back to another episode of That's Business. Today's guest, Monica Olano, is the CEO of Cali Sober Mom. Monica, thank you so much for coming on. This will be a very fun conversation I'm excited to see. Before we dive into what you're doing currently, as an advocate and someone that just seems like this badass warrior, were you always this way even growing up, or what was your childhood like, if you feel comfortable sharing?
So turns out I was always this way, but I didn't know it.
Oh.
I had not embraced that part of me, and it took trauma and healing to now I'm in my own it era and just kicking down doors. But now that I talk to people, it turns out I was doing that my whole life. I just didn't know it. So I've never fit in a box. That is the best way to say it. I've always had very strong opinions, and not towards others, but my opinions towards the world. And I've just acted on that pathway, even if it didn't mix with the standard or the normal, and just always kind of dance to my own tune, but not in a weird way, not in a way. And there's nothing wrong with being weird to dancing to your own tune, but in a way that was just me and I owned it. But I knew how to socialize and fit in and be whatever everyone needed me to be to do all of that. But I was out here living like my own world instead. So that's probably the best way to describe it.
And I get what you're saying of like not to the weird way of like, oh, that kid's a little different or an artsy kid or whatever someone wants to term as weird. But I totally get where you're coming from because I feel like I fit that same mold, so to say. So was there a pivotal moment where you're like, oh shit, something's got to change. I need to be more into myself and be in my own era, as you stated?
Yeah. I wish something consciously inside of me would have spoken and said that, because that would have been a lot more fun. But instead, like I've always liked to do things the hard way.
Of course.
Did it my own way, I guess. So I had a very traumatic experience. I birthed 3 kids in 18 months. And this is off of fertility treatments. So let's just combine all that together.
Oh my God.
I was in the throes of fertility. I mean, I could spend 2 hours talking about what got me there, but just failure after failure. And we decided to give it one more shot. And turns out we got pregnant. We did our procedure on March 7th of 2020. The world shut down as we know it, March 14th, 2020. Mm-hmm. Turns out a week later, I find out I'm pregnant with this miracle baby. Have her at the end of November of 2020. And then we were on a very strict timeline with Cobra because my company, they were magical. They carried fertility benefits.
Wow.
So we had a very fine timeline if we were going to try again to do it. And we didn't think it would work. They told me I wouldn't even have one. So then we got pregnant with twins when my daughter was 9 months old, leading to 3 kids in 18 months. But that night, my twins actually just turned 2 yesterday.
Oh, happy belated.
Yeah, thank you. And everything that could go wrong with that birth went wrong with that birth. I use the term comedy. What do they call it? A comedy of errors. Because no medical professional went in that night saying, I'm going to mess up this, and this. But they did. About 15 different people made the wrong mistakes. And it was just really traumatic. The last thing I remember is being put under anesthesia, yelling, cut her open now. My husband's being kicked out of the room. I woke up, I don't even know when. I don't remember my twins' first 48, 36 hours of life. Very traumatic, life-changing. But again, I didn't realize that at the time. You're just, all of a sudden you're waking up and you're in a room with these 2 babies you have to take care of. And I have been fiercely independent my whole life. I've never known how to just say, I need help. And so I just went straight into, I need to do this. I need to do this. How they didn't see when I was trying to tell the nurses how to do their job and I was timing them on if the medicine was there in time, how someone didn't see that there was going to be an issue when I left that hospital and I wasn't sleeping. It was a mess. And as soon as I got home, the only thing I'd ever known how to do to cope with stress was drink.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I did. And turns out my daughter, the one that we had issues with in the birth, ended up having issues outside of and just became a very difficult baby. I was begging my husband every night, please take her to the fire station. I can't let this girl touch me. It was just bad. And then the drinking compounded. And finally, my husband was getting on me, not because he was upset with me, but he's like, this isn't working and I need you to be healthier. And the kids need you to be healthier. And everything was just kind of colliding. And I knew that the only thing I could do next was to try to stop drinking. The meds weren't going to work if I was still drinking. The therapy wasn't going to work if I was still drinking. So it was that day that I decided to stop drinking and healing and learning about myself that changed everything. And through therapy and through working through some traumas and some things that, you know, you didn't know and that you've been overcompensating for, it's really helped me own who I am and own what I'm doing and just make me realize like there's nothing in this world we can't do. The only thing that's stopping us is our mind falling into these traps of what's traditional and what's normal. And I kind of just went for it. I was like, you know what? How much worse could it get? I have been through the ringer. Like, throw it at me. Let's go. And that's really the pivotal moment that changed and brought me into this aura that I'm in now.
Oh my gosh. Like, whew. Well, I'm so glad. And I love that you're so open about this and we're laughing about it because it's a serious conversation. Nobody's,
Yes.
I mean, I don't want to say like nobody's ready to have, but, and I'm sure the mental toll it took on you of you wish for these babies for so long and then there's issues and then it's not all sunshines and rainbows. And
no. How do you complain when other women are still out there struggling? How do you complain?
But your journey is your journey and your problems you're entitled to. It's interesting too, because the fact that you willing to admit and having a strong partner, it seems to say like, all right, we need to change some shit here instead of like, yeah, we're good. Like it's not going to work out. That's incredible. So when you decided and having that mentality, like, fuck it, it can't get any worse, which I love. And I'm so stealing that.
Yeah.
What kind of, like you said, you quit drinking, you went through therapy and everything. So a lot of people don't know the healing journey and how fucking hard it is. So let's talk about that span of time and what led you to where you're at today.
Yes. So healing is fucking hard.
Yep.
It is hard. You know, a lot of my platform is about getting off alcohol and ending the cannabis stigma reduction. And I have tons of women message me like, oh, what product should I try if I'm not going to have my wine tonight? And the first thing that I will tell them is that I can tell you about any product, but until you understand why you're drinking, what's triggering inside of you that makes you want to, for me, it was numbing my brain. That's what mine was. But until you find what those things are, like you should really, not telling everyone to go to therapy, but you should combine getting off alcohol. And if you do go the cannabis hemp route, you need to put healing in there of whatever healing looks like for you. And I'm going to try to scoot back to my train of thought because what the healing process looked like for me, which you asked to then get to where I'm at today, therapy was huge. And at first I didn't want to go. I always had thought therapy was you just say all your childhood problems. They tell you why your parents are awful. You hate them for the rest of your life and you blame them for everything and you move on. And that's not what it was. And I've just been, I don't know, therapy got me to where I am today, but it's helped me peel back all those layers. And so every time I think I've healed one thing, I'm realizing it's like an onion and that gives something else that was down there that I didn't even know was bothering me time to rise up, and the healing process never really ends. But in the midst of that, I also found myself in this very unique situation in the sense that the partner that I chose, and he truly is the most supportive, amazing. He is the rock that keeps me going. We balance. We are the yin to the yang. We do not look compatible on paper, but we crush it. But him and his family have a very successful range of bars and restaurants and a lot of different things, and they are very well positioned financially. And I'm very lucky enough to be able to stay at home with my kids and get that pivotal time with them, but also be able to go do those healing and have that where I'm not tied to a 9 to 5 and stressed about that on top of the healing I want to do and on top of being with my children. And I wanted to use my voice as a bridge or a platform for others that might not be there yet or might not be comfortable talking out about things or be comfortable saying some of the things I just said out loud. No one wants to say, hey, I got home from the hospital and drank 2 bottles of wine.
Yippee!
Or I begged to leave my daughter at the fire station. No, it's embarrassing. And for so long, I was shameful and I was hidden. But if all women do that, we can't heal. And so I chose, since I'm in the position I'm in, to not waste it and to use my voice to heal out loud so others know nobody's perfect. Nobody has it all together. Like, we're going to heal together.
No, nobody has it together if I've learned anything. And I will say, if we're going to say anything positive about the pandemic, is I think it brought to light, going to therapy and that it's not this stigma. Because yes, I do have 2 psychology degrees, but I'm like, I don't need therapy. Who needs therapy? I'm not a mess. I had the same connotation. And I think I'm just giggling over here as you're talking because I'm like, yep, amen to that. Like, yep. Mm-hmm. Feel called out over here. Thanks, Monica. But
no, but that's what it's for. True. I want women to be like, wow, that's me too. That's me too. So I can be like, we're all like this. Right. We're all like this. Come see us. Come meet us.
I don't have children, but I have thought this through of you just have a whole ass kid, or in your case, 2 kids at one time and 3 at home. And you are just expected to like take care of this human you grew yourself till they're 18 or, for the rest of their life, of course. But it's just such a wild concept. And I have these conversations with my mother and I'm like, why? Like, this is wild. Like, why is nobody saying what a wild concept this is? She's like, meh, it just is what it is. And she comes from a very different generation. Like, our parents come from a very different generation where it's like, you get married, you have kids, and nobody talks about miscarriages and nobody talks about how actually really difficult it is to get pregnant.
Yes.
I learned more in my 20s as my friends were getting pregnant than, and I think I'm pretty smart. And it was like going into high school all over again of like, excuse me, what happens? Excuse me, what this? And I give so much love for, get to seeing my nieces and nephews grow up and get into teens and into high school and all. But I'm like, what is happening? Like, it's just a whole other world. So going back to what you said about having moms understand like, okay, why you need to drink. So where did this idea for Cali Sober Mom come through, and tell us what it is?
Okay. Like any good profession, you fall into it, right? No one means to get to where they're at. I think you know this very well.
Yep.
So I started in the midst of getting off drinking. Not perfect, could not go cold turkey. And I started using cannabis or hemp. I first got my medical card and I started there. But then we were having like our first barbecue at the house this summer. And I just wasn't ready to be around everyone with a drink in their hand.
Fair.
Well, I was only, 2 or 3 months sober at that time. And I found these, they call them like canna beverages, low dose hemp beverages. And I had one of those and it was amazing. Like, I got a drink at the pool, but I wasn't anxious. I wasn't, hungover. I wasn't outside of myself. I was just relaxed. And I was like, hey, these are really great social substitutes. But that day, the criticism I got, and not in a mean way, but I live in a very well-off neighborhood, and they were like, I would never touch THC. Oh, the people in high school that did that. Ugh. And I was like, but you're over there drinking a bottle of wine. Like, now I know how much worse that is.
Right.
And they didn't do it in a mean way, but it really had me thinking, like, why is it okay that I can go on a play date with my 3 young children and drive and be offered a glass of wine and it's fine, it's normal? But if I were to have one of these low-dose hemp beverages at a family barbecue with adults, I'm having to answer a lot of questions. And that really bothered me. And then, as I mentioned, my husband owns a variety of bars and restaurants, and alcohol reps are constantly trying to get time with him, and that's just not his thing. And he got an email from one of the reps about a whole line of low-dose hemp beverages that they were going to start carrying and selling. And he forwarded it to me. And I was like, of course I will take this meeting for you. And I brought a friend that we had bonded over mommy wine culture. I thought we weren't going to be friends anymore, but turns out she also likes these drinks. And we had a whole new bond about how we don't drink wine anymore. And I brought her with me, and we just had such a great time laughing, talking about what these drinks are, how they help. And it just spawned the idea for a podcast. Like, how fun would this be? Like, two elder millennial mothers, we both struggled with infertility, just having these beverages, shooting the shit, you know? But as it got more to fruition, she had to back out, which is totally understandable because she's a licensed psychologist and her husband is a ER doctor. And so while these are technically federally legal, there's still so much professional risk at hand, and they couldn't put their livelihood. Totally understand. And that's what really then spawned like, okay, but I don't lose my livelihood or my social stigma or whatever. And so that's really what spawned it. And then it's just kind of evolved. So we're starting the platform as a way for women to investigate these beverages. We're going to add educational components. I'm out showing how it lives in the wild. I did a reel the other day, hold my drink, pushing my daughter. Like, these are normal. Like, let's normalize them. So women that might feel like they can't normalize it or talk about it, I want them to feel seen and heard. I want to give them educational components if they don't know where to start, because it is very confusing. And you don't want to start with a very high dosage drink and then be like on your butt calling the ambulance just to be told, like, go home and listen to some music and eat some fried chicken, as my ER doctor neighbor tells his patients that come in with that.
Nice.
Yes. So, and it's also a way for brands to then help reach this demographic of women so they can showcase why they got into this, how they see this benefiting society. I just didn't see anything like that out there, and I wanted to create a platform for women to have that.
Well, and it's such a crazy process. There's so many products. I mean, now more states are legalizing everything. And to your point of like drinking wine, or how about having a freaking cigarette? Like, that's okay. You know, that's my favorite thing in the world, where I want to like punch some people, is like smoking the cigarette while pushing the kid in the stroller, or like with the kid in the car. That's where I'm like, you do not deserve to have your children, but that's fine. Yeah, you know, whatever. So it's interesting too, because what do we grow up with? Like Cheech and Chong of like, or that 70s show where it's like, oh, they're so blazed and this is what it is. And it's not that way. I mean, the low dose is so different. Or someone like myself with high levels of anxiety that my brain does not turn off, let alone throw in if I had children, my Lord, I would be through the roof. Like, I do not know. But it's interesting because I have a friend, when she had her first kid, she's like, well, I feel bad. Like, I don't know, like taking 5 milligrams, like super low dose. And she got shit from other moms, like so much crap about it. And she's like, and her argument was the same thing of like, but I'm not drinking. Like, why is it fine to have like 5 glasses of wine and then pump? Like, that's not okay to do. So you clearly have this idea, and this is so not idea, what you're actually doing, because it's so freaking needed. So with this education piece, give us some examples of who's the target. Obviously, people may be trying to stay away from alcohol, but who's kind of the women especially that you help?
So the women especially, just to kind of give you an idea, is really, if we're talking age, not that it's pigeonholed to this, but really that 30 to like 55, which I'm dead smack in the middle of. I'm 38. It just seems to really resonate in that demographic, especially women, because we've all kind of been there where we know we're drinking too much wine and then we're hungover, but we know we're not completely sober. We don't want to call ourselves sober because we still, not that sober people can't have fun, but we still want something to go and have some fun. And we're not going to walk into a dispensary. Like, we're just not going to. That's not, I still to this day do not like going into dispensaries. Like, I just feel, they feel cold and they just don't feel like they match me. And most of the people that go in there are looking for the higher dosages. They know their flower inside and outside. They know this, they know that. And you almost, I don't want to feel dumb when I go shopping. And when I go into a dispensary, I feel dumb. And I just don't want to.
To this day, I have never walked into a dispensary. I have friends.
Really?
My brother is a marijuana pro. I always ask him. I have never walked into one. As a semi-regular user, I've never walked into a dispensary for that exact reason, because I hate feeling dumb.
Yes.
And like, my brother could make fun of me. That's fine. He's like, really? This is what you're looking for? I'm like, I don't know. This is what I want. Like, get it for me. And then he does.
Yes.
But it's so funny because I hate feeling dumb. Like, I'd rather be called a lot of other colorful words than someone ever tell me I'm stupid or feel stupid.
Yes. Or make you feel stupid. Yes. Exactly. Like, I don't need that eye roll. Like, I get it. I'm a soccer mom. I'm a suburban soccer mom now. Like, it is what it is. Like, you hate the term, but like, we are what we are. And so you instantly know, like, when you walk into those places, they're like, oh, so like I said, I don't want to feel that way, but I also don't want to be sold something that I don't really need.
Right.
I hate feel like I'm being sold. And when I'm not educated, I feel like people have the advantage to sell me. And I don't like that. If you're going to sell me, I want to be subconsciously sold. So I don't really know.
We'll unpack that in therapy.
Yes, we'll unpack that in therapy. So I want to provide, I'm learning as I go, and they're constantly new information's coming out and new studies and new research and new facts. And I just want to be a safe space where you can come learn this stuff without being sold anything, without feeling pressured. You can sit in your own house and learn. You can reach out to others to ask questions. I just wanted that stigma-free, safe zone for us to start getting educated about this.
Right. And like you said, it's okay if you want to be sober. It's okay if you want something in between. I mean, that's the conversation we do need to have.
Yes.
What happens with it. And something interesting, I have one of my very best friend growing up. She's in AA right now, but she still partakes in cannabis, and it's so different. And it's still, she's like, I need something. I don't do it all the time. She does it more socially, or usually when it's us two, like hanging out, acting like little giggle monsters, like we're back in elementary school again. But it's so interesting, and kind of having that balance of the in-between. And, I hate when people are like, well, how are you going to take care of your kids? Like, how are you going to do that? As I'm sure you've been told so many times. So walk us through, and I'm not saying like, what's your schedule, but how have you approached this differently? Or when do you feel the need to use, or when, like, what's working best for you in your life right now with having 3 kids all within 18 months because you're crazy?
I know, they're 3.5 and 2. It is wild, wild. Every day is different. Like, every single day is different. That's one thing I've learned to start embracing. This is going to sound super woohoo, so bear with me.
Do it.
But I am like, with this new inner peace that I have found by sobering up my mind from alcohol, embracing everything. For the first time, I'm feeling like as one with the universe, where I'm not constantly scrambling to work against the world. I am flowing with what the world brings me. And that doesn't mean I just sit around and wait for everything to come to me. I put in effort towards things, but if things aren't working out a certain way, or gosh forbid, like this happens all the time, I have plans and the kids get sick and then I have to rearrange. Old Monica would have been super anxious, super upset, fighting with my husband, doing this. And I'm like, okay, the universe is telling me something's wrong with my kid. They need me today. These aren't priorities. And so taking on, and I genuinely feel like cannabis and hemp has helped me relax into that more. It has, I know you mentioned you have very high anxiety. I think this in combination with not drinking alcohol, because alcohol is shown to increase anxiety, I think it's helped allow my nervous system and my brain to relax enough to get into the zone. So yes, every day is different. My kids go to a Mother's Day Out program about 4 mornings a week. So I get 16 hours a week to myself if I'm lucky.
Amazing.
But that does not include travel time. So let's just take off a half hour there. But I try to power through work then. I try to get a lot of things done in those 4 mornings. And then they come home, they do naps. And then my husband and I kind of rotate afternoons. Like today, he knew I had something, but he also has something. So we do have a sitter for 2 hours today. So it is a lot of give and take, a lot of managing to get there, but we make it work.
Absolutely. Oh, so good. I love that.
If anyone listening to this that is not married yet or is not whatever, don't stress about when you're going to get married or when you're going to find that person. Just lean into finding the right person, because I didn't meet my husband until I was 30. He was 35. Neither of us were married, no kids. But this is the best partner. Like, I have a partner, not a husband, like a partner in everything, and kids and marriage and everything. And it makes your life so much easier. And I wish I wouldn't have spent the first couple of years of our marriage fighting that. I wish I would have just embraced that's what he was. But that would not the advice you asked me for, but that is my advice to everybody.
Well, it's true. It's true, because I remember in my 20s, it was like, why aren't you with someone? And then when I had my more serious partner in my 20s, it was like, oh, well, I don't know. And then I ended that. Then all my friends were getting divorced, late 20s, early 30s. And it goes back to like the whole stigma over, oh, you're using marijuana. Oh, you're using this. Oh, you're not married yet and you hit your 30s. Like, who the fuck cares? Like, the world is so different now. I mean, we have to evolve. We have to develop. And like, who do you want to go to war with? I don't think anyone had like a pandemic on their bingo card and, throw pregnancies and losses on your plate. And who do you want to go to war with? And that's what you have to think about is, yeah, marriage is great and wonderful, but like, is it with the right person? And when I didn't believe that till I met my last one. I'm like, shit, this is how
I hated when they said that.
I know. I'm like, go fuck yourself. Like, that is not a thing.
Or you'll find them when you least expect it, and then boom.
And then it happened. And I'm like, shit. I hate it. I hate who I am. Yeah. I remember my girlfriends, like my girl group from high school. They're like, who the fuck are you? You're crying over this guy. You said I love you after 2 weeks. Who are you? Didn't want to get married, didn't want this and that. And they're like, oh, you found your person. I'm like, no, I didn't. This is stupid. But that is such a great piece of advice there. But I still want to ask again, what other piece of advice do you have for listeners as we wrap this up? What do you got going on? Let's hear it.
Okay. So my advice, if I could tell my 18-year-old self, or gosh, I got a college girl out there watching my kids that I want to slap some sense into, but let go of expectations. Like, your parents' expectations and your grandparents' expectations, that's not the world you live in. And it is not the world that you are going to grow up in. So if you're living to those, you are not going to have a fun experience. And that doesn't mean like go get wild and not take anything seriously, but take some time to find who you are. Before you decide this is what I'm going to do for the next 60 years of my life, like, come on, I went into college as an actuarial science major.
What?
Can you imagine if I would have graduated at 22 and became an actuary?
No.
Would that have fit this? No. But I was good at statistics and I was told to make a lot of money. And if you're very successful, and this was a very quick way to work your way up the ladder to a CEO, and all that made sense on paper. But I'm so happy that 18-year-old me was like, I think I'm just going to drop out of college 5 times, bounce around the country, and I'll land somewhere. So I'm not recommending that either. But I think kids should not rush into taking on debt at college. I don't think they should be forced into anything at 18. They say our frontal lobe doesn't even fully develop until 21. So go get some jobs that make enough money to do things, learn some different skills, and wait to figure out what you want to do. That's what I would say. And you know what? If you're in your mid-30s, like I was, and you're not doing what you want to do, it's also not too late to change. I'm a prime example of that. So that would be my advice. I just gave myself chills, not to like prop myself up, but man, I wish someone would have told me that when I was younger.
My career coaching heart is fluttering right now because that was perfect advice. It's never too late. It's figuring out what's best for you. And look at you, you're kicking ass. And I'm so glad our paths crossed.
Me too.
Monica, thank you so much for being a guest. If you want to follow Monica, you want to work with Monica, head to the show notes, listen to her podcast, and tune in again next week for another episode of That's Business.
If you're looking for a career change and you're not sure where to start, the Resume Rescue can help. Sure, there's no such thing as the perfect fit for everyone, but here at the Resume Rescue, we're on a mission to find the perfect solution for you. Whether it's changing careers, updating a resume, learning LinkedIn, or practicing interviewing, we have you covered. Find us online at theresumerescue.com and find all of our contact info in our show notes.